All right. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are coming from. Happy Monday. I don't know if everyone can hear me. Can you hear me,
I can
Lillian?
hear you perfectly fine.
Perfectly. I think I'm going to
I
pull down the music a little bit, just because it's sounding up a little bit too loud. Hopefully, my dog doesn't bump into anything. Hold on. Hey, Ace. Go up there. No, no, no. Go up, up, up. Anyway, we hope everyone's enjoying their evening and thank you for tuning in tonight. We have an awesome event. As always, I am with my very special host, Lillian, to the right of me, on this side, and my dog is in the back going to sleep. Um, and we hope this is going to
that's
be a
another
fun.
host of yours.
Wait,
Your
what?
dog's gonna fill in.
I know, I have so
Your
many
dog's
hosts
gonna
going
fill
on.
in sometime.
She's
That's
gonna
right.
fill in. So we have a special guest tonight. He is a meteorologist. And please correct me if I'm wrong later on. He's a meteorologist. He also works, he's a storm chaser. He works in emergency management and he also works in as a public safety manager. So it's gonna be really cool to have him on with us. He'll be tuning in just in a little bit. Right now, we would like everyone to go out and start sharing this post. I do have it live on my page. I do have it live on the Movie Crew 17 page. So now's the time to go ahead and share. So give us 1 second. So I'm gonna send. Do you have the link for this one already?
I do. I think through you tagging me on Facebook.
Oh, there it is. I see it. I'm just gotta do a quick tag because that's the number one thing we have to
I have
do
not
is
been on.
it won't let me tag. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Um that's interesting. But we are live, everyone. So go ahead and share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. This is the best time right now for everyone to tune in and to get to know some weather stuff. So as further ado, I like to introduce James and bring him in with us.
All right. Hello, everybody.
James, welcome to our podcast. This is like our first podcast that we're doing that's related to movies, but also majority of it not related to movies. So this is
Yeah, well,
going to be really. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. I was just gonna say, I think a lot of people are attracted to the idea of like disaster movies and capturing that unknown. So, even though we're talking about storm chasing, it definitely ties into the movie element because people are just interested in that obscurity out there.
Disaster movies are so like. I mean, it's Hollywood. Hollywood has all these things that go on, and it's like let's make it very like extravagant. Let's overdo things. And tonight will be great because we have some movies that we'll be talking about that is kind of questionable. Is this real or is this just Hollywood? I guess that's just a new session we're gonna say. Is this real or is this Hollywood? That's a cool. That's a cool new session we'll have.
I like it.
So I mean, it's pretty cool. So I know everyone's starting to tune in. Again, we are with James. He works with he uh, he is a meteorologist. He also goes storm chasing. He is a emergency management specialist. Is that what I would call it? And a
Yeah,
public safety manager. Yeah, specialist. Same thing. You're good at what you do. So this is a great evening where everyone can ask questions, anything about weather, tornadoes, flooding, anything you have in mind that comes with severe weather. He's the guy. Ask away. This is a great opportunity for people to ask. He's going to be showing some cool pictures with us that we have from his storm chasing events that he goes on. You still go on those yearly?
Oh yeah.
Or do
Yeah.
you go it still go? Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So real quick before we get even more deeper and start, I'm gonna reshare everything again. I just want to make sure. So yeah, I'm gonna get the YouTube channel and share. So give me 1 second. James, if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you got into let me put that down. There you go. How you got into storm chasing.
All right, yeah. So again, my name is James Baugh. I'm a meteorologist, storm chaser, emergency manager. I also teach at a local community college related to meteorology and emergency management. But really, I got my start a long time ago. I wanted to go into culinary arts, and actually went through a flood, lost everything to the flood, and wanted to kind of keep that from happening again. So initially, I went into meteorology. I thought if I can forecast these events, I can keep that from happening not only to myself but to the public. And got my associates in meteorology. Went on to get my bachelor's from Mississippi State in meteorology. I got a job working as a meteorologist down in the Gulf Coast region in Houston, forecasting mostly for the oil rigs. And I'm like, all right, perfect. I can issue these forecasts. We can get the lead time out to the public, get them to a safe spot when the storms approach. And then we had Hurricane Harvey hit. And even though we had such good lead time with Hurricane Harvey, still a lot of people lost their homes. They didn't heed the warning properly. So what that really made me realize is that although we have good warning and lead time, it's really more in how people prepare and respond to the severe weather and disaster events. So that's kind of shifted my focus into emergency management and really making sure that I can help those people before, during, and after the disasters as well. And then of course, I like the adrenaline of storm chasing, so that definitely ties in with my background, but also gets me out there in the plains, seeing some cool stuff.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting that you have it wasn't like, oh well, ever since I was a kid I was interested in this. It was more so that you had suffered kind of a loss from a weather related incident, and that's what you felt like this need to mitigate that by studying it and going into that. That's very interesting, actually.
Well, and really, it's actually an interesting point because when I was a younger kid, I was actually terrified of like even the most weakest thunderstorm. It could be heavy rain, and I would be afraid to eat. I'd want to stay like all the way inside the middle of the house. But as I learned more about the storms, and I built up my own courage, and now go chase them all across the country.
Yeah.
So to jump in real quick for everyone tuning in, we are with James. He is a meteorologist. He is a storm chaser. He works in emergency management and public safety management. So ask away. This is like a great night to ask any questions you want, whether it's in emergency management, in storms, and weathers. Ask away. He is open. We don't have people like this come on our channel a lot, so this is a great opportunity. If you got questions about tornadoes, anything, ask away, and we're going to be debunking some scenes from some disaster movies later on throughout the podcast, as we see my dog scratching herself in the background. So can you do that off camera, please? Can you do that like off camera? All right. Well, she's gonna scratch away. So that's really cool. That's how you got into it. Like weather for me, I never got into it. I thought it was really cool. I think I'm more intrigued about space than I am about weather when I was growing, because like I guess when we live where we live, like in the Midwest, like weather is not as crazy as places like down south or up north where you get really bad storms or you get flooding down south. So out here it's kind of like, okay, you're in the middle zone, but you still get severe weather, where we get chances to knock off our power grid because a really bad thunderstorm has gone through. Have you how was I going to put it? Have you ever what would be your second option if you weren't into weather? What was your second go-to? Well,
like I said early on, I was looking to go into culinary arts, cooking. My mom was actually she baked wedding cakes for when I was younger, and so that kind of molded me into wanting to go into culinary arts. But like I said, going through an event firsthand and seeing the destruction caused by something as simple as the weather, it's like, hey, we can actually forecast these events. We can increase the lead time. So that kind of shifted me into the meteorology side. And then, like I said, seeing how people were not as prepared, even though we give plenty of lead time, they don't respond appropriately. That kind of shifted the emergency management focus. So, you know, anything in public safety, helping the public, you know, police, fire, something like that. But more than just the day-to-day responding to those everyday emergencies, the big disasters are what kind of catches my attention. And, you know, truly helping people on their worst day.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Who's your favorite meteorologist? Let's get into that. I want to knock that out the way. Who's your best meteorologist? Like, who do you like?
All right.
Who is
Well,
like your idol?
so that's a loaded question. We have in the Chicagoland area, we have Tom Skilling, who just retired last year. And the reason I like Tom Skilling is that he is, you know, real detailed on his forecasts. He provides a lot of information to the viewer so that they could learn, you know, about what he's talking about. He's not just telling you, oh, it's going to be high of 75 today. He'll let you know why it's going to be a high of 75 today. So I really like that. There's a meteorologist in Birmingham, Alabama. His name is James Baugh. And he just has this great on-air personality during high-impact severe storm events. They've had several large-scale tornado outbreaks going through high-population areas, and he's stayed on air 9 hours straight, just, you know, pinpointing down. He'll say, if you're at this intersection, you know, there's a barbecue place right here at the corner. He'll get it right down to your neighborhood so that you're not saying, oh, that's not going to impact me. He can call out your house almost exactly and say, you need to get to shelter now. So I think, you know, as a public, we don't necessarily know all that much about severe storms. So I think when you can relate it that specific to anyone, any member of the public when they're watching, it can really increase that preparedness for them and let them know that, you know, this is impacting them and they need to get to a safe spot.
And that's, I think, is really key because I think a lot of the public aren't prepared for a severe storm. I don't think they are. A lot of us are just kind of like, you know, okay, we'll just hear.
Winging it.
Yeah, just winging it because you never know when. I mean, yeah, we have the technology to get us, you know, give us a heads up, give us a warning, but I feel like we're still not there yet with when it comes down to it. Like, you know, I worked with James for a long time. We both worked in emergency management. And the number one thing that we train in is in preparedness and making sure that everybody, not just us, but the public know what to do when a situation comes about. And I think the number one thing, and I want to talk a little bit about before we get into your awesome pictures that you sent me in video of your storm chases, is how to stay prepared with your family, how to just be prepared all around. And what you start off with is what we call as a go bag. And you hear it sometimes on the news. And a go bag is something that you just have in your house. You can have one for your whole family, or you can have one for each of you. And in those go bags, it has extra clothes, you know, flashlights, batteries, your medicine if you have something, all that stuff that you think you'll need. That's important, not like books and stuff like that, but things that are important that you need to survive for the time being. You know, I know with what's going on in LA and in LA, how some families didn't even have more than 5 minutes to get out of their house. So you just get up and leave, you know, and it's very critical if you have a go bag, you can just pick that thing up whenever you're ready to go and go out there. You know, it's really simple. It's really simple. It's cheap. I mean, it can get expensive if you want to, but it's just in case you need it. I mean, that's one thing I really truly think that's important to have is always have a go bag and be ready. Even though it's just gonna sit there, it's ready to go when you're good. I don't know if you want to uh, continue with that, or if you have any other ways that people can get themselves prepared.
Yeah, so I mean, a go bag's a great tool to have, both, you know, in your house. Just in the room behind me, we have a tote full of emergency supplies, so that in the event anything happens, we're ready to go. and it's got some shelf-stable food. It's specially designed food where it has like a 30-year shelf life. So, you know, if you're caught without food, you can't go to the store for a while. It'll last you for a while, and you don't have to worry about replenishing it every, you know, couple weeks like the food in your fridge. Another good tool to have is a NOAA radio, NOAA.
I'm gonna see if I
weather
can
radio.
pull this up. I'm gonna see if I
Yeah.
can pull it up on here. Give me a
And the
second.
best way to describe this is almost like a smoke detector for storms. So you put it on your desk in your room, and it'll just sit there, and it's constantly waiting for a specific tone from the National Weather Service. And if you get put under a severe weather watch of some kind, it's going to sound this high-pitched, loud alarm that'll it'll wake you up in the middle of the night and let you know that you need to get to shelter. It's, you know, you can get it where it'll send a weekly test, so you know it's still working. But aside from that, you know, it can just sit, not take up too much space. It'll be quiet until that second you need it, and when it goes off, you know, hey, I need to get to shelter. So
I think this is it right here. I'm gonna pull it up on here. There it is.
Yep. They're usually like about $30. You can get them at Walgreens, Walmart, you know, any of your local stores. But you know, it's a good investment to have. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'll just rely on my cell phone." If you know you got one of these storms coming, if your cell phone loses power, or if cell phone towers get knocked down by the storm, this runs on a complete different frequency. This will still be it'll still be active. It'll still be scanning and waiting for those storms that are coming, and let you know to take shelter. So if there's one thing I say to take away from tonight, I would definitely you know, go on Amazon and get one of these.
I still haven't gotten one. I know I should get one. I haven't gotten one yet, but I know you showed me them before, and it's really cool. Like I said, when your phone goes out, like that thing still goes. Like it's there, and especially if you live in Tornado Alley, like you know. I mean, Lillian, you're up there where you get a lot of tornadoes, so it's.
Yeah, it's funny. So, I mean, we've had some scares where, like, oh, the tornado warning, you know, the tornado sirens are going off. And I remember, I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before, looking outside, we could see like the cloud going like this, drooping down really low. And it was like, I mean, it's amazing to look at, but it was scary. I mean, nothing touched down, you know, right where we were. But I know there was some touchdowns in some, you know, peripheral areas. So yeah, this area is more prime for that. You know, fortunately, knock on wood, we've not had anything hit us directly. But it's scary. I mean, I remember when I used to deliver groceries, and my boyfriend, he's like, there's one coming out that way, you know, and I'm like driving home, and it's like, it's scary. I mean, it's cool to watch, I guess, on TV, as far as, you know, it's like it's awe-inspiring, a tornado, the way it looks, you know, but you know, if you're not looking at the devastation and damage it causes for people, but just the look of it is just amazing. Some of these tornadoes.
So I have some
pictures. Oh yeah, you can let up the
video. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk. Go ahead. Say, James. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, we'll be driving, you know, in small town Kansas or Nebraska or whatever, and there'll be people like riding their bike home from work, and it's like, what are you doing? We're chasing a tornado right now, and you're just out and about because I don't know. People
and you know, something to me that, like, I've watched some of the like storm chasers on YouTube and stuff, and it always it seems like, you know, when you see the tornado off in the distance, and you're like, oh, you know, if I was driving it, that's far away. I don't need to worry. I mean, you worry, but like, it's that. But I mean, it's crazy how fast they go. So you have to be going, because I mean, the miles per hour sometimes they go. It's like crazy. So you think that it's I don't know. It's an illusion, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like, oh, well, I can outdrive it, but they go so fast, and I don't know.
Yeah, so a low-end tornado will spin at speeds, at 95 miles an hour, but then storms can also move as fast as 65 plus miles an hour. So imagine tornadoes spinning, but it's coming at you at highway speed. So it might be
right. And then they could also shift directions, which I've seen like some of these storm chasers, they get close. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? You better hope that thing doesn't change. Obviously, they know more of what they're doing than I do, but it looks so scary to the person
Well, I
watching.
mean, that's probably one of the most common questions I get asked as a storm chaser is, how close have you been to a tornado? So I'll start off. We drove through a weak tornado one time by mistake, but usually we'll want to keep ourselves about a mile away because, like I said, if that storm is moving at 60 miles an hour, even if it's a mile away, that gives you 1 minute to make a decision, and if you're driving down a road and that road is washed out or it dead ends, well, now you got to backtrack and, you only have a minute. So, especially when you're out in the plains, it's wide open. You don't need to get super close, a mile away, you get a good vantage.
Right, exactly.
Keith, I think, just had up a picture, and, that one was, it was probably about a mile and a half away. So, it's still, you still get to see some beautiful structure, but you have a cushion, if you will, to,
Yes.
So up here, I know there are different levels of tornadoes that, some people have asked me. Kenzie says hi. So she tuned in. So can you explain these to everybody? Like, what is EF0, EF1? It shows like the wind speed and stuff.
Yeah, so I'll start out. I'll give a little nerdy history lesson, but it was initially called the Fujita scale, and it was named after a professor actually at University of Chicago named Ted Fujita. One of the interesting things about Ted Fujita is that he was originally from Japan, and he lived in the town that was initially going to be the target of the Nagasaki atomic bomb drop. The morning of that bombing, it was clouded over in his town, and that's when they dropped the bomb on Nagasaki instead. But he went out after that and saw some of the damage. Fast forward, he comes to the United States, comes to Chicago, and sees some of the reports of, and this is back in the 60s, some of the reports from tornadoes, and sees the comparison of damage to that bombing in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And so he starts studying, what the physics are involved and how the storms, the downdrafts of the storms can actually cause damage to most of that bombing. So we kept the Fujita scale all the way up through about 2007, I believe. Then we got a bunch of structural engineers who kind of fine-tuned it. One thing that's important to note about the Fujita scale is that it's a damage-based scale. So when you're looking at a tornado in the field, you don't know how fast that tornado is spinning. You don't know exactly what level of damage it's causing. What we do is we go out after the tornado happens, see what structures it hits, and then using our structural engineering knowledge, we can assign what level of winds would have caused that damage. So, you can't say in real time, if I'm looking at a tornado in the fields, oh, that's a F3 tornado, because I'm not really going to know until I look at the damage after the fact.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with, how well built is a building. So, if you're looking at a lower income area where maybe they take shortcuts in the construction of the building, you can see some extensive damage, but it might still get a lower end rating. I see someone just asked in the chat, is this universal? Does everyone use the scale? So this is going to be universal across the United States. A lot of the knowledge is shared with other countries, but as far as the actual rating, that's going to be mostly specific to the United States. But again, the knowledge we gain from structural engineers about how a structure is built and how the winds impact it is really what developed this scale. So 2007, they kind of fine-tuned it and said, we had these wind estimates prior on the Fujita scale. Now we think that maybe we need to adjust what wind speeds will cause this level of damage. So that is what changed it to the enhanced Fujita scale, and that's what we currently use today. So, if you look at stuff from a while ago, you might have heard like an F2 tornado, and today you might hear something like an EF2 tornado. It's basically just a little bit of fine tuning to that scale about what wind speeds would have caused that level of damage.
So what would you say is the most dangerous? Like, I know all tornadoes are dangerous, but like, is there any like what is the fastest tornado, the most like devastating tornado that that someone can see?
Yeah, so the scale goes from an EF0 all the way up to an EF5. And when you're looking at an EF5, you're looking at high-end winds well above 250 miles an hour. And what's so dangerous about that is that really, unless you're below ground, there's not a safe place. If you look at some of the damage from an EF5 tornado, it can just wipe the foundation clean. We're talking walls, furniture, doors, window, all that stuff just wiped away from the base of a house. So unless you're below ground, it can be a very dangerous situation.
I have a question about that. I've always wondered, so we don't have a basement in our house. We have a crawl space, and my parents live about a block away from us, and they have a basement. And so when there's been like, a tornado warning, we will usually like run over there. But I always ask, I'm like, it seems odd because yes, you're like, and maybe you can explain the logistics, but you're underground in a basement, say, but then if the tornado peels the house off, can't it like suck you up? Or is it's just because you're at a different level, it doesn't do that, or there's less chance?
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. We'll talk tonight probably about Twister, came out in 1996, and of course one of the opening scenes.
He's got it already. I haven't seen that movie, by the way. I haven't seen the original and the new one. I have not. I just never got into it.
Not to give any spoilers, but one of the opening scenes of Twister is, they get the tornado warning. They run down to the basement of the storm cellar, because that was a while back, and the dad gets sucked out of the storm cellar, and that's kind of what inspires the main character to go on into tornado chasing. So I mean, it's certainly a possibility, but in a list of bad options, it's better than just staying above ground.
But it's not a perfect thing, because that's I've always I'm like, well, okay, we're in the basement, but I don't know. It still seems like I could get sucked out. But then they say don't like to go under the stairs. Like you have even a better chance of. So I don't know.
Yeah. So if you don't have a basement, your best option is going to be the most interior room of the house. So you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. You'll want to stay away from any windows because, of course, stuff flying through the air can shatter the windows and throw glass at you. If you have the basement, obviously, best to get below ground. And the same principle applies. Get as interior as possible. If there's a staircase, you can get below the staircase because, again, you have something kind of keeping you down if you were to get sucked up. But, yeah, just kind of get as much between you and the outside as possible. It's good to have if you have time, grab like a mattress and throw it over you too, so that if anything falls on you, it kind of has like a cushion. Another great thing to have when we talked about go bags earlier, something about helmet, head protection. It could be a bicycle helmet, a baseball helmet, football helmet, something like that. Most of the fatalities caused by tornadoes are due to blunt force trauma to the head. So when you're thinking about what to grab in a hurry, think about like some type of helmets to protect your head, and then also think about some hard, steel toe shoes, so that if you're walking around after that, you don't have to, if you're stepping on glass or nails or whatever, it doesn't go through your foot.
So Kenzie says, what's safer, crawl space or a basement?
If you have crawl space, again, still lowest level, might be a good option. It's really going to be a case by case, situation, just because depending on the construction of your house, if you have that wind going in the crawl space under your house, it could still suck you out. So it would have to be a case by case, but as low as you can get would be your best option. Be that a crawl space, a first level, or I see another good question. Why the bathroom? So bathroom's good because you have a lot of the pipes. You typically stone walls that are more moisture resistant, but they're also makes it more sturdy. So it just adds a stronger layer of protection, more reinforcement around that room that keeps those winds out.
That's all. So we have some pictures here that you sent. Everyone who's tuning in again, thanks for tuning in. We're talking about weather. We're talking about tornado, and James, who is a meteorologist, and he's drinking from his cup that has even wet. Look at that. There's a storm on it. Look at that. He even has one with a storm on it.
Oh,
So you know what? Maybe later on I can put up a display of how the radars look, because I know some people don't know how to read the radar. So we can talk a little bit about that. So I got some pictures that you sent me from going out storm chasing. Here's one of them. Can you explain this? I mean, I see a tornado over there.
Yeah, so this was actually not last year, because obviously we just hit 2025. So this one was in 2023, and we were chasing up in Wyoming, and then this storm system crossed into Nebraska. We actually caught 8 tornadoes on this day, and so this was just one of them. And what's interesting about this is obviously you see the main tornado right there in the center of the image. But let's see. Can people see my mouse on my computer or no?
I don't know. Can you see my mouse? I don't know if we can. I can see if I can zoom in. No, I don't think I can.
All right.
Well, no, I think it's stuck there. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look just slightly above and slightly to the left of that tornado, you actually see a little thing dipping down as well. And we didn't see this actually, in real time. We actually noticed it when we were going back and looking at pictures. So this was actually another funnel cloud. Like I said, this storm produced 8 tornadoes, and one would spin, lift up, and then shortly while later, another one would touch down. So we were actually kind of watching, one tornado, which is the main one in this picture, dying off, but then you see the funnel of a new one starting to form. So again, it just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, having that buffer, keeping a good distance, because that tornado could have easily been forming right above us, and we would have been in a bad spot.
How far away would you say you were from this picture?
From the main tornado, the one that you see most vividly in the image, we were probably about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. From that funnel cloud in the foreground, that was probably about, I'd say, a half mile.
Half mile? That's pretty close, isn't that?
Yeah. So, again, going back, I think these storms were moving probably about 50 miles an hour that day. So, you're still talking, about 30 seconds or so to make a decision. And again, if you're drive down the road and it dead ends, or you got to turn back, you really kind of run into a critical time where you run out of time quickly if you don't leave a good buffer.
Let's see. I got another one here. Here's this one. So is this the same day, or is this a different day?
This one, I believe, was a different day. That may have been the same day. I'm testing my memory now, but this one was yeah. I want to say this was a different day. I think this was in Nebraska or Kansas. But just you can't always see when you're seeing a tornado. The tornado is made of wind, And you can go out any day and you don't see wind. So what you're seeing when you see a tornado is condensation, and you're seeing what the tornado is picking up. So if you look at this tornado, it doesn't even look like it's on the ground, but it definitely was on the ground. It looks like it just kind of almost ends at the base of those gray clouds in the background, but it's all the way at the ground. So I think it kind of goes to a question I see in the chat here from Kenzie.
Is this it right here? Yeah. Is it true if you don't see the tornado moving?
Don't see the tornado moving? Is it coming? Yeah, so kind of a good rule of thumb. You can kind of gauge what direction a tornado is moving based on looking at it. But if the tornado is not very clearly moving left or very clearly moving right, and it's just getting bigger, well, that usually means it's coming towards you, and so you probably need to get out of there.
So we got another one here. We pop this one back here.
For the most part, most of your tornadoes are going to be moving. You'll get some occasions where the tornado just kind of stays stationary for a while, but yeah, generally if it's not making a noticeable movement to the left or right, just take a safe bet that it's coming towards you and that you should move out of the way.
Move out the way. That's smart. I mean, some people take out their phones and start recording. I mean, yeah. Oh, that's
wow.
That's kind of scary, actually.
It looks like a tsunami.
Yeah, right.
Like a big wave. It's just that's a very interesting picture.
So that's everyone. So what you're seeing in this picture, trying to use explain it in terms that anyone will understand, but you're having a storm and the cold air is rushing out, and what's happening is as that cold air rushes out, it forces the warmer air up above it. So a tsunami is a really good analogy because it's almost like a wave going up and over that colder air. So you'll see the colder air is all around the base of that storm, and then as the warmer air goes up above it, it's forming that little like saucer at the mid-level there.
So okay, so for a tornado, for people who see it, I know you can report it to the weather, the National Weather Center, and you can report it to them. How would someone know like what to look for in a tornado? Because sometimes they just say like, oh well, the tornado is just a spiral in the sky. It's clouds that look like a funnel. How can you tell like, okay, this is an actual tornado? What to look out for when the sirens go off?
Yeah, so it's going to be hard for me to say, but it's almost like a do as I say, not as I do type of deal. If you're not trained, it's best to just not try and look for one. I would be more focused on trying to get to a safe place if I don't have that training, just because, you could be putting yourself in a dangerous situation if you don't know what you're looking for. As I said, I went through years of schooling to know what some of these features are to look for. But if you don't know what you're doing, it can be pretty dangerous. Now, like Lillian said, you can sometimes see parts of the sky descending or rotating. So if you see that and you're already outside, still focus on getting to a safe place. But then, maybe you can relay that report to the National Weather Service. Or if you don't know a way to contact them, honestly, you can probably call 911 too, because a lot of reports that the National Weather Service gets are from local law enforcement who are, again, trained to go out and spot these storms and relay those reports so that they know that the storm's actually happening as well.
I've heard that like it's supposedly if you hear it sounds like a train.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a train sound. That's I always look for that. I'm scared. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, definitely a freight train's a good freight train, jet engine, something like that. The closer, depending on how close you get, you can sometimes even hear like, bits of stuff being shredded or torn apart, and that's kind of unnerving, because it's actually impacting people's lives and houses and all that.
Right.
But yeah, if you hear just kind of like a low pitch rumble, obviously we all know what thunder sounds like, but if it's more continuous and ongoing, and you know the conditions are right for a tornado, then that might be a good sign to get to a safe place as well. And I heard Keith mention about tornado sirens. I've just put in a special note where I wouldn't rely on the tornado siren as my means of getting to a safe place. You know, tornado sirens actually came out of the Cold War era when the Soviet Union was threatening nuclear war with us, and so we had the sirens as a means where if those missiles were launched, it would tell people to get to a safe place. But obviously, that's a very dated technology, so they malfunction. A lot of places they'll test their sirens monthly. So if you can't hear that test on a clear, perfectly good day, you're not going to hear it during a strong storm with heavy rain and winds. So
we live in viewing distance of the town weather system, and it goes off every Tuesday at 10 a.m. and it's just like, how much longer is this going to be? This but it's super loud for us. So.
I remember my friends were downtown in Chicago when they had the tornado sirens going off, and a lot of my friends told me, we live in a city, so there's no such thing as tornadoes going through the city because the skyscraper is going to block the wind from hitting it. Is that true?
No, it's not true. So I heard it a lot, and I don't want to fault anyone because people hear these things and they think, that they just think it's factual. But you have to remember that storms, they go up 70,000 feet for some of these severe summertime storms, and even something as tall as the Willis Tower, Sears Tower for true Chicagoans. That's only a couple thousand feet high. So it's a very low portion compared to the height of a storm and all the processes that go on within that storm to form a tornado. So when people say that Chicago hasn't been hit by a tornado, knock on wood, because it's only a matter of time. And we have had smaller tornadoes in Chicago, but large cities like Dallas, Indianapolis, Nashville, they've all been hit by large tornadoes too. So it's definitely not out of the question for a large city to be impacted by a tornado.
So when would you say tornadoes are more common? It's a more common, right now it's like cold in the Midwest. You don't really get tornadoes. I don't know if you can get tornadoes in the wintertime because, I seen lightning in the wintertime and it's not even storming. It's just lightning. I'm like, where is this coming from?
Wow.
I thought it only it only happens when it's warm outside. That's what lightning is formed out of. But can you get, when does tornado season start, and can tornadoes happen even in winter, the dead of winter?
Yeah. So, and I'll preface what I'm about to say with, any storm could do its own thing. So climatologically speaking, it's going to depend a lot on where you're located in the country.
Snow-nado, gosh.
In Chicago, in the Illinois area, typically we're looking from like April to June or July for our highest tornado threat. But areas in the South where it's warmer year round, they can have tornadoes also year round. So, Mississippi is a good example. They actually had some tornadoes a couple of weeks ago, and again, it's January. You're not necessarily thinking of tornadoes, but an area like where it's warm year round, those conditions are still right for tornadoes. The big thing that usually concerns me is like when we get big temperature swings. So, if you guys are in the Chicagoland area, it's been pretty cold the last couple of weeks here. We had a dip well below freezing last couple of days, and now we're up in the 40s. We're going to be pushing 50 later this week, temperature-wise. Whenever we get like one of those big warm days in early spring, and we know that there's a cold front coming through, those are the days I worry about, because when that pendulum swings the other way, that's really when you're going to have those prime conditions for severe storms.
Yeah.
So do you think winter is over already, or do you think it's still like, because the weather in Chicago has been fluctuating like really bad, like really cold, really warm, and it's like, can you tell if it's this spring will be really bad, the summer will be more bad of storms this year, or are we just gonna be mild?
Um, it's I'd say we're still in for a little while of winter. We're getting treated to a nice little stretch of warmer days than what we've been seeing lately. So this week it's going to be in the 40s, and could push 50 a couple days. But I still think going into February, we'll still probably have a couple days or weeks where we're back below freezing. Usually January, February are some of our coldest months in Chicagoland. So, I don't get too optimistic when it gets a little bit warm here in January. I can take it as
Come on, we can't wear shorts yet.
yeah. As far as looking long term into spring, I think it's still kind of a little too early to tell. We can look at what some of the patterns are and what specific patterns have done in regards to spring storms, but I always say, it might be a lower than average season, but if that one tornado hits your house, it doesn't really matter how many tornadoes there's been, because that one impacted you. So,
Right.
I caution people never to get too, we're going to have below average tornado season. Well, yeah, but it could still be impactful to you. So,
So I got this other picture of, I don't see a tornado here, but I mean you can explain that. Is this like right before it's supposed to touch down?
Yeah, so this one actually wasn't a tornado. This was just a strong storm, actually in its decaying phase. We have a lot of cold air rushing out. This would have been, I think this was in Iowa, maybe. You get a lot of pictures and you start to forget where they're at, but it's kind of cool structure. Like Lillian was mentioning about the tsunami type look earlier. You see all these like ripples and waves in the sky. It's, might not always produce a tornado, but it's still cool to look at.
Sweet. All right, let's see. Now this one's a video, so I'm gonna pop this thing up real quick. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna play it one more time.
Yeah, so direct area here, but yeah, right there is where the tornado touches down. This touches down again. And if you look real close, you can actually see some of the stuff that's picking up. You'll see like little bursts of gray right at the base of the tornado. So it kind of lifts up and down, and that has a lot to do. You'll sometimes see examples where like the whole house has been destroyed, but there's still a plate hanging on the wall in the kitchen, or a china cabinet's been untouched. So it has to do a lot. I use an analogy like tornadoes are like fingers. So as they spin around, you have little vortices that form, and as they lift up and down, or as they spin around, it might take out that wall, but it leaves the china cabinet. So that's kind of
okay.
That's interesting.
Now, is that is it a similar concept for where? I'm thinking back to the original. There was a line in there by, I don't know which character, but they're like, it takes out one house but leaves another intact. Is it kind of a similar thing where it's like a one thing comes down differently?
Yeah, that's a great example. So if that video Keith just showed, it lifts up slightly and then touches back down again. So if you lived here, a tornado hits your house, but then it lifts up and it might jump over this house and then come back down in this house. So
yeah,
it's better to bet that it's not going to do that. Especially the stronger tornado gets, the more likely it's to stay on the ground for a long time. But especially early on or on the weaker tornadoes, they'll sometimes hop around and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
taking the tornado
See,
serious.
it's like I have to watch the movie. I know. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what you're
That's
I just know about the egg and steak scene because people say I make my breakfast just like from the movie with the egg and steak or whatever. I'm like, I don't know what you're
you
talking
know
about, but
with Twister. Now, normally I am an OG girl. Like I like the original move. When they do a remake, I mean, I think was it Twister 2? Is it like it's I can't I we saw it at the theater and I thought it was really good considering because usually when they remake stuff or they do a part 2
it's
later,
bad.
it's just
Yeah.
bad. And this actually was really good. It was well done.
So I already showed you guys,
In my
Twister,
opinion.
and of course now I got Twister as well. So
Oh god.
we got them both here.
Need
So
to watch
some
it.
backstory about Twister and
Well,
Twister.
what about the Wizard of Oz? Doesn't that count as a disaster movie?
There you go.
Doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's where it all started. It's Kansas City, or Kansas, where you're gonna get flown away. I mean, I don't know if you'll end up in Munchkin Land, after getting launched. Actually, that's a good
I don't
question.
know.
Can you have there been survivor stories of people getting launched from a tornado and thrown like 500 feet away somewhere else and survived?
Oh yeah. There's definitely been cases where people have been picked up by a tornado and survived. There's also plenty of cases where people have been picked up by tornadoes and have not survived, unfortunately.
Right.
Uh, a lot of times, it's not that the tornado itself is going to hurt you. It's what the tornado is carrying. So, if you imagine 2x4s and glass and pieces of metal and all this debris that's in the tornado, that's all spinning around. So if the tornado were to pick you up, it's going to all be impacting you. So,
So it's like basically getting beat up in a room, basically, while you're
yeah,
getting turned around in a circle, basically.
yeah.
So,
So,
okay.
there's been cases of people being picked up and survived, but I would say it's more of an outlier than a norm.
So Wizard of Oz, we can debunk then that the house won't fly off, and I mean, the houses can land on people, after a tornado, but I mean, we can debunk the Wizard of Oz then, where you're gonna get launched and the whole house stays together, right?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty unlikely for that to
Okay.
happen.
Okay, so we can debunk that, and we don't see anyone riding their bike around the tornado or something like that. So, okay, yeah, I said because when I was growing up, when I watched The Wizard of Oz, I'm like, wow, so it's safe for you to stay in your house when a tornado is going by, and if it picks your house up, you're safe in your house, so you'll land. Little do you know that it's far from that. You're not gonna land just like normally. You're gonna get your whole house shredded up. And now, if you get older, you're like, yeah, it's not safe to sit anywhere because I think a lot of people think it's safer to stay in their car because they can drive away. You know what I mean? From it, or they can drive through a tornado. You know what I mean? But also at the same time, tornadoes can pick up your car, your truck. Because some people are like semi trucks.
Yeah.
You're safer in a semi truck than a car. And I'm like, I mean, but the semi truck can still get picked up from underneath and get thrown over and thrown around.
Yeah,
So
there's been a lot of cases of people being killed in their cars by a tornado, and maybe it's people who didn't know they were driving into a tornado or tried to outrun it and couldn't outrun it. So whatever the rationale that they used, it's still not a safe place. If you think of how much damage your car can get, just driving into another car in like a regular car accident. Now imagine, it's getting impacted by stuff at a couple hundred miles an hour. It's being rolled, it's being tossed, picked up, thrown, all that stuff. So yeah, lots of people have been killed in their cars by tornadoes as well.
So Wizard of Oz, everyone, debunked. It is not true. Your house probably is not going to be in one piece after it gets launched up into, into a multi-universe. So we bugged that. So don't guarantee that. Hide in your basement, safe in your basement. So and don't run into the storm either. So I know some people told me, oh, it's safer to stay in a semi truck than your car during a tornado because it's bigger. But okay, don't do that. Get somewhere safe. Go in the basement somewhere.
And actually, sometimes even semi trucks, just because they're a larger surface area, they're more impacted by the wind. So you know, you can imagine. I don't know. You've been on the highway on some windy days. You'll see the trucks even struggling to keep straight, and those winds might only be, 50 miles an hour. Now imagine if it's tornado force winds. It's a big area trying to, block out wind. And
so someone messaged me. They said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off." They live in a trailer home, and if they're stuck in a tornado, do they have to put ropes? Now they see people anchoring down their trailer even more to like a mobile home, like mobile home trailer. They anchor it down with ratchets to the ground to concrete blocks. Are they safe in a trailer home, or do they have to go somewhere else?
So a lot of times you'll see where they ratchet down a trailer, manufactured home in advance of like a hurricane. Typically, with the lead time you get for a tornado, you're not going to have time to do that, ratchet it down or secure it in some way. And unfortunately, manufactured homes, mobile homes, they're just not made to be tornado safe. And going to school in Mississippi, a high number of the residences in Mississippi are manufactured mobile homes. And that's unfortunately why some of the deadliest tornadoes are also in Mississippi. We have what we typically think of Tornado Alley, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, that central portion of the U.S. But some of the deadliest tornadoes occur in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. Because again, part of it might be that storms occur later at night, the terrain's different, but a large contributing factor is that a lot of people live in these manufactured mobile homes where they don't have an adequate shelter. So if you live in one of these locations, I'd be paying attention to the weather long before the tornado threatens, and maybe go to a friend's house that has a more structurally sound basement. They're just not going to be a good place. And there's been places where large mobile home communities have invested in a community shelter. So it's a shelter where everybody in those mobile homes can go and be safe from the storm. But again, that's not necessarily the norm in every case.
Yeah, as a kid, we lived in a mobile home in Indiana, and I remember when there'd be a tornado warning, we would get in the car, we would go. I think my dad would be like heading over to the city hall. We never went in. It was always like, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because they had maybe a basement there. I just don't remember. I just remember getting in the car and pulling up and waiting, outside, I guess, to see if the tornado starts coming. Yeah. But yeah, that was my biggest fear, though. You mentioned something about at night, because at least during the day you could see it coming, but at night, I mean, how terrifying. It's
So I think
you don't know where it's at.
Keith, I actually sent you another video.
Oh yeah, you did. Let me.
So I think this is actually a good. This was not a planned segue for this video, but I think it is a good time to play that video just for an example.
I got you. Hang on. Give me a little bit. I'm just gonna.
The tornado he's about to show. This was taken in April of that particular year, and it was taken about 6:30 p.m. So again, you still have relatively early sunsets that time of year. So it was dark. It was getting towards the point where we're gonna say it's probably not safe to chase too much longer. But once he gets this video up, I'll kind of narrate you through it.
1 second, I got you guys. Hang on. Where are we? Here it is. Okay, hang on. So I'm going to pull this up. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah. All right, still uploading. Give it a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see the upload.
I'm just seeing the purple waves.
The purple waves. It's processing. It's going through all these things. It's like, yeah, just give it a little bit. It's uploading. Now it's just processing. So
this video and actually the other video that Keith showed tonight, both of those were in Illinois as well. So I think people have a conception of tornadoes only happening in tornado Valley.
We put down that.
But, 2023, Illinois actually led the nation in tornadoes, which is a surprising fact. Again, people most commonly think of like Oklahoma or Texas with the most tornadoes, but 2023, Illinois had the most tornadoes in the country. 2024, last year, I think we came in 4th place, and that was kind of impacted by there was a hurricane that made landfall in Florida and just produced a boatload of hurricane. Hate to use the pun. A boatload of tornadoes. So Florida ended up coming in number 1 last year, I believe. But we're still top 5, which 2 years in a row of high ranking of tornadoes. So something to consider, that tornadoes are becoming more common around this area. So now it looks like the video's up. Before the video starts to play, like I said, you're at twilight, sunset is pretty dark here. We're looking towards the storm, and you can kind of see a wall cloud, which is storm chaser terminology. If you look, there's kind of like a Boeing segment, slightly above the ground. It's kind of below the rest of the storm. But you're not really seeing a tornado at this point. So Keith, go ahead and play the video.
Yeah.
I'm recording this.
So as of you start to see it there.
It's about to be really windy. The shelf clouds moving into us.
It's about to be really windy, obviously. I didn't show the last one.
I'm recording this.
So you can actually see the lightning tornado there that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to see just because it's so dark. So right there at the end.
If I can pause it, if I can catch it.
Yeah. That one last flash of lightning really helps.
I don't know if I can catch it in time here. Hang on, I'm going to run it back. Because I saw, you can see, right, if you look in the center when the flash goes, you can see a big thing behind it.
Yeah,
right there. You can see.
Right there. Yeah, so that's actually a mile-wide tornado right there in that, at that time. And it was going through a small town in north-central Illinois, up by Rockford, if anyone's familiar with the area, between Rockford and Rockville, kind of.
I go up there often for film things, so yeah.
Yeah. So, it's a good point of especially when it's dark, you can't always see the tornado happening, but then also of how, large these tornadoes can be. So I think I went back and looked, and we were about 3/4 of a mile from the tornado at this point, and it was moving away from us. It's actually going through the town where most of the damage occurred. As this video is going on, but perfect example of how Illinois is not immune from tornadoes.
Skyscrapers won't protect us. So, at night, it seems pretty scary because you can't see it. So you can be driving through it, and all you're hearing, you can just think it's a really bad storm. but you don't even know it's a tornado. So you can be riding right into one and not even know.
Yeah. And that, I've been curious. I mentioned the NOAA radios earlier and how those are great to have. But, we have AM, FM, and satellite radios in cars. Why don't we have a NOAA radio capability in cars where, wherever we're driving, it'll just pick up if there's one of those alerts so that we know, hey, maybe I should stop driving right now and seek shelter.
That's interesting. They should have that. They have Sirius radios. They got like satellite. They got everything, but they don't have NOAA radios.
Yeah, I actually had just found out the other day that I can listen to the Weather Channel in my truck, so that's kind of cool. But
so Kenzie says, have you ever been in a close call that almost became too close?
Yeah, I have been in a tornado, unfortunately. Luckily, it was a weak tornado. It was EF0. We were driving down this dirt road in Iowa and paying attention to, I guess, we were actually trying to get to another part of the storm that was looking promising for the tornado, and this other part spun up and kind of caught us off guard. So it got kind of windy, and we fishtailed a little bit. And as we were coming back after we had turned around, we saw where it had cut off the tops of some of the trees. So yeah, I'd say that would be a close call that became a little too close.
So, I mean, that's cool. I mean, like, we got Gary Dando, who's hey Gary, how are you doing? Oh, I gotta cover that. So Gary and everyone else who's just tuning in, we're talking about weather with James. So go ahead and ask your questions away. We're talking about tornadoes, severe weather, and we're gonna start debunking some things from the movie Twister and Twisters. Well, I got stuff from Twister, but we're just gonna do a little debunking, and definitely I think what we should do is we'll probably have to get together and do a YouTube video that's strictly on debunking all the disaster movies, and I think that would be pretty cool. So if you guys want to see that, go ahead and let us know that in the comments. So I'm gonna open up a few videos that we're gonna do some little debunking, okay? Because
All right.
I haven't seen the movie yet, but I did see some. But Twister's the only one I haven't seen. But let's debunk some of this stuff because we're filmmakers. And that's what we do as filmmakers. We make things Hollywoodish. We make things extravagant and beyond what it's supposed to be because it's fun. Does it mean it's real? Meh. But we will take what we can and make it more than what it can be. So
Well, yeah, I don't think people ever go to the movies for a science lesson. So, you kind of got to exaggerate at times. But I think one of the cool things about, tornadoes and storms is that they're inherently cool on their own. So you don't really have to, beef it up too much. It's already
from the scale 1 to 10, 10 being factual, 1 being Hollywood. How would you rate the first Twister movie?
All right. So, and we have to remember the original Twister movie came out in 1996. So it used a lot of hold on, I got the dog going in the background.
Oh. Hi, Ace. That's not Ace. I don't think that's Ace. I just see Smite.
All right, so yeah, it came out in 1996, so we used a lot of the science and the knowledge we had of storms at the time. I think when they were producing it, they actually did try and use a lot of real life footage. They had crews out and they were trying to chase tornadoes, but and we could talk about that too, about how tornadoes are kind of dangerous, or not dangerous, kind of difficult to film and photograph. So they couldn't get a lot of good footage. There's a couple scenes in Twister that use actual storm footage, but a lot of it's computer generated. And
Well, that's how.
You know,
I mean,
it's still pretty cool.
that's what it is today. I mean, it's
Uh,
cool. It's cool. So you think so? They actually use real footages from tornadoes that they took.
there's a couple scenes that are real footage, but the majority of the tornadoes you see in that movie and Twister are fake, CGI. There's like one or two storm structure scenes that are actual real footage. Have you ever eaten a Twister? Like a funnel cake or? Storm, that counts.
I would say that counts.
But yeah, I'd say on a scale of Hollywood to real life, the original Twister, I'd say maybe put it like at a 5 or so, kind of mid-range.
Okay, 50-50. So here's a scene from the first Twister, I think. Like I said, we don't own any of these videos. This is off Twister. We're just going out here and just showing a clip real quick. And James here is going to debunk it, but we do not own any of this stuff. So here we go. I got to put that out there at least. All right, hang on. I'm going to play a few seconds of it.
Another cow.
Actually, I think that was the same one.
All right. Okay. So we have that first scene. Like I said, this is all new to me. So we have that first scene. And this is my first time watching it. So if you see a flying cow coming at you from a storm, aren't you way too close then at that point? Like, is that realistic?
Yeah, that's definitely way too close. So,
okay.
If you're at the point where you're seeing any debris flying around you, you're going to be too close to be in a safe spot. So just to give some background to that scene, they're chasing the tornado. They're driving down a road. The tornado ends up going over a little lake. And so it actually kind of turns into a water spout, and then it actually splits off into two tornadoes. They say, oh, we got twins. And the tornadoes kind of go around both sides of their truck. It spins the truck around, gives it a nice little car wash. And they hop out, and the tornadoes magically dissipate right as they're, they don't get impacted by a tornado. I don't know. A cow weighs a couple 100 pounds.
I have my cow right behind me. Right, Ace? Come here. Come here.
If the tornado is picking up a cow, it's picking up a lot of debris that can cause pretty good damage to your vehicle. So it's going to be. I'll say that making it through that unscathed would be the fictionalized Hollywood part of it. But the premise of like a tornado being able to pick up a cow, being able to turn into a water spout like that, being able to split off into two tornadoes, all of that would be, semi-factual.
Okay. So 1 to 10, how would you rate that scene?
That scene, I'd have to give it. I give it probably a 5 still. Like I said,
a 5.
The making it through it unharmed parts really drags down the integrity of the science of that scene.
But that's the whole point about the film. If they don't survive, then the movie's over. End credits.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a scene from The Day After Tomorrow. This came out in 2012, I think. I don't remember when. So I feel like this is the weather how sometimes we get here. It's just one day it's nice, the next day it's this, and then it gets freezing cold. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and pop this open. And here we go.
Are you there, Bart? Yes, I'm here. These tornadoes are forming so fast. What? Oh my God. Lisa, are you getting this on camera that this tornado just came and erased the Hollywood sign is gone?
All right. So that was from The Day After Tomorrow. How How do you feel about that? What are we talking
All right,
about here?
so a little bit to take in there. That scene, they're looking at multiple tornadoes going through the Hollywood, the downtown, Los Angeles area. That area itself is not super prone to tornadoes. You don't have them there too often. They have happened, but it's not as common as elsewhere in the country. So that part, I'm going to give it kind of low on the scale. Now, tornadoes where they are a little more common in areas like Oklahoma, a lot of the Oklahoma City news stations will put up helicopters. And it kind of ties into social science, where if the people actually see the tornado live on TV, they're a little more apt to take action. They actually know, hey, they're not just saying there's a tornado warning. They can actually see the tornado happening, and they know there's a real danger there. So it's not uncommon for some stations to put up helicopters and film the tornadoes, but it's still dangerous. You're dealing with unpredictable winds. A lot of people use drones too. More common these days to fly a drone up and get video of a tornado, but a lot of people have also lost drones because of the tornado. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you see in that video, they got really close. You're like in the middle of 3 tornadoes, which you can't have multiple tornadoes touch down at once, which is that's true. But the fact that they were flying a helicopter without that helicopter getting thrown away, won't having 3 tornadoes and you're in the middle of it, won't that be so disruptive for a helicopter because of the wind speed?
yeah, so I could be wrong, but I think that scene goes on to where the tornado does end up impacting the helicopter.
I think it does, yeah.
But yeah, if you're not a trained pilot, like I said, it's uncommon for news stations to do it just because of the risk of flying a helicopter in an unpredictable wind like that. There's a couple stations that do, but it's in areas where there's a lot more commonality of tornadoes. They happen a lot more frequently, so the pilots are a little more trained because they do it more often. Does that make sense? If we had one in the Chicagoland area, I can't imagine that one of our local news stations would be putting a helicopter up to film it, unless it was, from a very far distance and
just zoom in on those cameras.
Yeah.
So this one, the last one we have is also the day after tomorrow. It's the helicopters freeze in air. So I believe this is when it was raining and stuff, and then it went from the tsunami and hurricane to like Arctic blast. So I'm gonna go play this clip.
Vertical full cirrus cloud formation. What the hell is going on?
Bloody fuel lines are starting to freeze.
All right. So okay, I know there's some Hollywood stuff going on in there too. It is Hollywood still. So how do you feel about that? Like from the cold front, so cold that it can freeze up your systems.
Yeah, so I think a few scenes later, the one scientist talks to the other scientist, and they actually say what temperature the fuel lines would freeze at, and it's like negative, I don't know, 100 some odd degrees. So on its front, temperatures reaching that low to freeze up the fuel lines, the science in that's going to be pretty bad. I will say though, you can get drastic temperature changes, especially with some of these intense storms. I've been, standing outside on a tornado where it's 85 degrees out, and then that cold rush of air hits me, and it's 50 degrees now, and I have to put on, a light jacket. So, you can get some of those drastic temperature swings, but obviously, this has been exaggerated a lot more for Hollywood.
So you can't just get a cold front that cold where you're driving and your car will just shut down. I mean, your car can shut down for sitting out too long in a freezing cold where you can't start it, but
Yeah.
it's not like you're driving and a cold front hits and there goes your car. You know,
and diesel engines actually have a little more because of the diesel fuel. It has like almost like a wax in it, paraffin, so it tends to gel up when it gets super cold. So yeah, it's possible that it could get cold enough for like well, I mean, yeah, it can get cold enough for fuel to freeze to an extent, but yeah, it's going to be over dramatized for the helicopter to freeze like that in midair. And
so, all right. Well, that's what we got for today. We got like 9 minutes left in the show. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and drop it. Ask away. We got 9 minutes or so, give or take. And yeah, like I mean, I think I would love to one day go storm chasing, but the problem is I'm gonna be too afraid because I don't know if the car's gonna take off flying and I might end up in Munchkinland somewhere. Okay, so I don't know if I would want to go storm chasing in a way, but I know when I was younger I used to watch this show called Storm Chasers, and they build this armored vehicle that's like really, they called it the TIV, which is the Tornado Interceptor Vehicle. I think that's what it is, right? And it was basically built out from, I believe, like some sort of like tow truck, like in a Super Duty tow truck that they had, and they made it just armored. And then they had the Doppler, is that what it's called? That would always travel along right next to them.
yes, there's a DOW, which is Doppler on wheels, so it's like a radar unit that's on a truck, and they can survey the storm.
So like that would be cool, but also at the same time, I don't know if I want to sit in that thing because I mean they say it's built to handle going into a storm, but obviously would you? I don't know because some people say that show wasn't. There was some extra stuff added to that
Liberties
show.
taken, yeah.
Yeah, because like
when we're talking about like the movies or even a TV show, you're talking about. First, you have to forecast where these storms are going to be. Then you have to travel to that location. Then, you guys know from a filmography perspective, lighting, all of that stuff's going to play an important role. So, maybe you see the tornado, but then, it's too backlit or there's not enough lighting where you can't get good contrast. So, talking from like a filmography perspective, it can definitely be a challenge to get these realistic looking storms for TV or for a movie. And that's, I think, why more so on a movie side, they use, computer imaging as opposed to actual footage, just because, if you're talking, all this expensive film equipment, first of all, transporting all that to the right location is going to be a nightmare logistically.
It's the biggest headache already. Transportation's already paying the butt with filming.
And I mean, you saw even some of my footage, and I'm by no means a professional photographer or videographer or anything like that. But and you saw, how the one video had poor contrast, and that's just what I had to deal with. That's how the storm looked. I can't put some studio lights behind it and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
set the scene,"
Go 3 miles behind there and light that tornado up right now.
Yeah. So.
I would hate to be the sound guy though.
Right.
If I was the sound guy on set and you have to go out there and film an actual tornado and you're like, okay, your actors have to talk, that would suck. Like there's nothing. There's no dead cat, there's no condenser that you can use to stop that wind from just pulverizing and destroying your audio and or mics. Like, I mean, obviously, when you're close to it, it's loud.
Oh yeah, I mean, you saw most of the videos that were shared tonight. You get lots of wind blowing into the storm, so it can easily drown out if you're trying to do a dramatic, line reading scene.
So, fun fact: I think when I think it was from Twisters. Is that the difference? Twister and Twisters.
Yeah.
The newer ones with the S. The Twisters. Okay, so they did a scene, and like I said, I just watch behind the scenes stuff. I don't watch the film. They did a scene, and they were in a house, and they built this house in a really crooked way. So it looks like when they're coming down the stairs, it looked like the way, like you're going down the stairs, it's normal for us, but they built these stairs where it's like off, like angled, where it's like built like instead of stairs being like this, it's like this. They were building
Yeah.
it. So when the actors were running down the stairs, I don't know what scene it was, they're going down the stairs, they couldn't keep their balance. I mean, they knew what it was, but it purposely made them look like they're losing their balance because everything was all over the place. And I thought that was pretty cool how they did it. Like I said, I'll probably have to watch Twister and Twisters. I'll probably watch the first one first because like I don't know how the quality of the one in '96 is with the graphics. You know, like
Well,
I haven't even watched.
Not to give
No,
a spoiler, one of the end
Oh.
scenes of the original Twister movie, what it looks like to the viewer when you're watching it, they go into the shed, they tie a belt around their waist, and they strap themselves to a water pipe.
Yeah.
Tornado comes over, picks them up, and they're like, hanging on to the pipe, and their legs are flying through the air. Cinematographically, how they filmed that was they put them on a rotating set and
Yep.
turned
The
it
set
upside
was
down.
turning.
Yeah, so they were dangling basically, as opposed to actually being sucked up by the tornado. So,
So is this correct? What Gary said, what a tornado is?
Yeah, that is perfectly the definition, and it's one of the things I like to.
Did you Google that, Gary? Did you Google that? Did you copy and paste
teach
it?
to my students that by definition, a tornado has to be in contact with the cloud and the ground. So, you hear all the time people are saying, "Oh my God, we got a tornado on the ground." Well, by definition, a tornado has to be on the ground, otherwise. So, but yeah, that's a perfect definition of a tornado.
Oh, there you go. So we got like 3 minutes left. James, I'd like to thank you for coming on this evening. I think we're gonna have to come together and do a YouTube video where we're just gonna debunk all the disaster movies and sit there and go through them and just do a video on that to see, or disaster clips. And I think people like to see that because, like I said, we want to know if your house is going to be in one piece after it gets take off, like in Wizard of Oz. Like, see if it's true, like we'll watch Sharknado too. We'll see if there's logistically we can have sharks forming a tornado. I never seen Sharknado. I don't know what was the big thing about it. People love Sharknado.
So again,
it's pretty corny. I mean,
the tornado can pick up anything it goes over, and in theory, it could pick up sharks if it was going over sharks. But yeah,
are you serious? It can actually pick up sharks.
There's been instances where a tornado's gone over a pond and picked up fish, and then dumped fish on the town.
Oh wow!
But yeah, I mean, climatologically, tornadoes are not all that common in areas where sharks are, swimming around.
The middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
There's not been a case of it being recorded, but the good thing to remember is that anything a tornado goes over, it can pick up. So
okay,
it's possible, but I'd put it highly unlikely.
So I guess the biggest draw, if anyone has, oh my goodness, what'd she say? Hold on. Oh,
imagine a fish.
Imagine being a fish minding your own business, and then you're flying. Yeah, yeah, flying fish. Yeah, you'll have everyone. You're like, why are you late for work? You wouldn't believe what happened.
Cloudy with a chance of
cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Just have meatballs and food falling all over the sky. I don't know if I'll eat it because I don't know how sanitary it is. It's like people drinking rainwater. Or people say that they used to drink flood water. And I heard drinking flood water is really bad for you. That's how you catch infections and everything, because it's going everywhere and they just boil the water. But I'm like, I think it's more to it than just boiling water when you drink flood water. It's like,
flood water is just nasty. Even if you're like walking in it, if you got like an open cut on your foot or your leg, you're just really opening yourself up to infection. You see all the time, like kids splashing around in flood water after a heavy rain. It's just a bad idea. You don't know what's in the water, and especially if you're like, down in an area that has snakes or alligators too. You can have those also swimming around in the water. So just stay out of water.
Yes, yeah, that's the best way you can say it. Don't go swimming in it. But yeah, so I guess everyone, for everyone, thanks for tuning in tonight. Thank you, James, for spending some time with us this evening, talking about tornadoes and your experience. And yeah, I mean, I definitely want you to come back. I think. Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to do another session about just national disasters that happen and get your opinion on it. I'm actually thinking about having um safety class that we can do probably online. Nothing crazy, but like go bag, what to do to prepare yourself. Equipment that you can keep around, laying around the house, and all that good stuff. And I mean, speaking about disasters. Like I said, definitely everyone start looking at getting a go bag. You don't need it tonight. You don't need to go out and spend all your money on it, but just get a bag, put all your emergency equipments into it. Like I said, I have one. I know, James, you have one. So we have our.
Make one.
You got to make one. It's actually really good to have. In mine, it's I got extra boots, I got my extra pants, got jacket. I have my flashlight. Some snacks in there. Batteries, emergency stuff, first aid kits, everything. So it's definitely good to have, and especially with what's going on in the world today, with disasters are happening everywhere. From there's flooding going on to the fires, and now we're coming up on tornado season. So you always want to be prepared and you want to be ready for that. And definitely get trained in classes, get into classes like first aid classes, get into stop the bleed classes, get into CPR training. Get those classes under your belt, because you never know when you're gonna need it. So, and it's always good to carry a tourniquet, have all that stuff in. Like, that's what I have in there. I got a tourniquet, I got the CPR mask in mine. Just be prepared. That's the biggest thing. It's always being ready, be prepared for these situations. So, I mean, would you agree? So
yeah, definitely. Put on my professor hat and say, your homework tonight to get a NOAA radio and get yourself a go back.
I'm gonna NOAA radio.
Twister.
Let's see, NOAA. Oh yeah, I have to watch Twister now.
Yes.
So a NOAA radio will run you. I'm gonna Google this now for everybody, or technically I'm Yahooing it.
Yeah, and of course, we're not endorsing, we're not paid, sponsors or like that. But these are it's just a good thing to have. Like I said, it's like a smoke alarm for your severe storms.
Right. So the NOAA radio, you can probably grab one from here. I see it from $35. You can get from Amazon to $70. But like I said, we're not endorsing anyone. It's just something that it's good to have for everyone, especially if you live out in the countryside where tornadoes are very big, especially at night, because people go to sleep and they don't hear. Some people are heavy sleepers where they won't hear the siren going off. So if you have something like a NOAA radio with you, definitely something good to have. Keep in your go bag, keep extra batteries, But yeah, that's probably a great class we can do, or an online thing we can do on the YouTube channel as an emergency, and we'll show everyone how to put together a emergency go bag kit that they can keep for them and their families. Especially if older people living in your house, you got to be prepared. Because they can't do too much. So at least if you have something at the ready for them, have a tornado plan. There's always those. It's like people who have fires in their house, they have a fire plan. Have a tornado plan. Have a flooding plan. What to do. where to go, so because some people, when the siren goes off, they're just sitting there like, what do I do? I
Mhm.
hope it doesn't hit me. And, you don't want to be a part of the collateral, I guess you can say that way. You don't want to get hurt. We don't want to see anyone getting hurt. So definitely go look into that. That's everyone's homework. Look into getting a go bag, get know a radio. I'll watch Twister and I'll let you know my opinion on it. So I'll be judging it, watching it from a cinematographer exclamation point.
That's what we can do.
So
We can do like a director's cut where I talk about the
a
science and you talk
director's
about
cut. I watched the whole thing. I watched the 4 hour edition long one. Okay,
there you
like
go.
the Lord of the Rings, how they had like a 4 hours long director's cut. Like great. So, all right, everyone. We hope you enjoy your evening or morning wherever you're coming from. And we'd like to thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions about James or what he does, James, do you have any like social media that people can follow you on
Oh
or
yeah,
keep up
yeah.
with your
That's
weather
I'm
stuff?
big on LinkedIn. James Baugh. I think my profile picture is me standing in front of some tornado damage. Uh, Facebook, I got James Baugh too. Again, it's real obvious. I'm standing in front of a tornado in my profile picture. Um, I have a Facebook like what do you call it, business page, Storm Tech Solutions, so that covers all sorts of stuff all across the country. But yeah,
Sweet. Sweet, sweet. So, as always, thank you for everyone for tuning in tonight. It was great. Also, another thing off topic from the weather, don't forget the Red Huntress comes in this week, episode 2. Don't know a day yet, but definitely this week we will be having the release of episode 2 of the Red Huntress, and filming for episode 3 will begin shortly. So don't forget to swing by our Indiegogo, which is the Red Huntress on Indiegogo, and donate, get some cool perks, help us out, so we can get episode 2 rolling, and you will be seeing us on Tubi shortly. So that's going to be awesome, and get that ready to go. Hopefully the weather plays in our favor right now. It's been nice. Like now would be a nice time to film, but we don't have anything ready yet for us. So, all right, everyone. We hope you have a good night, and we'll see you next Monday. Lillian, are we doing one next Monday, or are we going to do our premiere next Monday?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I have to look and see what's going on.
I'm gonna have to see. So we'll keep everyone in the loop about everything with all that stuff. So, but definitely stay tuned, and don't forget to check out James' stuff. And we'll be back, and we'll definitely do a video on some disaster movies. So, all right, everyone, have a good night. Have a good